I never thought I'd ever be the kind of person who'd lock someone out of their own family home. But when my sister-in-law started banging on my front door like a lunatic, screaming that I had no right to change the locks, I realized that this situation had spiraled far beyond anything I could have imagined. I could hear her fists slamming against the wood, her voice cracking as she yelled my name, demanding I open up. But I didn't. I stood there on the other side, holding my breath, heart racing, and I asked myself one simple question. Was I really wrong for protecting my own peace? Would you have done the same thing if your own family member crossed every boundary you had? It all started months earlier when my husband and I inherited his late parents' house. They passed away within a year of each other, and it was devastating for him. They had left the house to both my husband, Mark, and his younger sister, Tina. Tina had always been a bit of a wild card, emotional, impulsive, and very entitled. She never held a steady job and always seemed to rely on others to bail her out. When we got the house, Mark and I decided to move in, fix it up, and make it our home. Tina agreed at first, saying she didn't mind since she was living with her boyfriend at the time. Everything seemed fine, at least for a while. The first few weeks in the new house were peaceful. Mark and I were trying to honor his parents' memory, renovating the kitchen, repainting the walls, and making it feel warm again. We both worked long hours, and every evening when we'd come home, it finally felt like we were building something for ourselves. But then one day, without warning, Tina showed up, with suitcases. No call, no text, nothing. She just appeared on the doorstep and said, "Hey, I need to stay here for a bit." I remember glancing at Mark, confused, but he looked too guilty to say no. So I hesitantly said, "Sure," for a few days. A few days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Tina never left. At first, I tried to be understanding. She said her boyfriend kicked her out, that she didn't have anywhere else to go. I offered her the guest room, but within a week, she'd already started acting like she owned the place. She'd leave her clothes all over the living room, blast music at midnight, and even borrow my things without asking. My favorite skincare products, gone. My expensive coffee beans, vanished. Every time I brought it up, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Relax, it's just family. You're being dramatic." Mark tried to stay neutral. He loved his sister, but he also saw what it was doing to me. I was exhausted from walking on eggshells in my own home. I couldn't even enjoy a peaceful morning coffee without Tina stomping around, criticizing how I decorated the house wrong, or complaining that I took over Mom's kitchen. It hurt because I was trying so hard to keep the peace, but she seemed determined to start a war. Things really exploded one night when I came home from work and found her throwing a small party. Yes, a full-blown house party, with her friends drinking in the living room. There were beer bottles everywhere, loud music shaking the windows, and people I didn't even know sitting on my couch. I pulled Mark aside, furious, and told him it had to stop. He finally agreed it was out of control and told her she needed to find another place to live. That's when she completely lost it. She screamed that this was her house too, that she had every right to stay because her name was technically on the deed. That part was true, and it made everything complicated. The house was legally shared between them, but she didn't pay a single cent toward the bills, maintenance, or groceries. I did. I was the one working double shifts to keep everything running smoothly, while she treated the place like a free hotel. Mark tried reasoning with her, but she refused to leave. For the next few weeks, the atmosphere in the house became unbearable. She'd slam doors, talk loudly on the phone at all hours, and mutter nasty things under her breath whenever I was around. One morning, I found out she'd gone into our bedroom while we were out and used our bed because, as she put it, the guest room mattress sucks. That was it for me. I told Mark that either she goes or I do. So we came up with a plan. Mark offered to buy her out, to pay her share of the inheritance so she could leave and find her own place. She laughed in his face and said she wasn't going anywhere until she felt ready. It was obvious she wasn't interested in fairness. She wanted control. And when she realized she was losing it, she started turning more manipulative. She'd tell Mark that I was trying to steal the family home, and that I was poisoning him against her. He tried not to take sides, but it was tearing him apart. One night, after another fight, Mark told me quietly, "I'll take care of it." I didn't know what he meant at first, but he spent the next few days gathering legal documents, talking to a lawyer, and finally arranging for an official agreement. If she refused to sell her share, we'd take the matter to court. When she found out, she went ballistic. She screamed at Mark, called me names I can't even repeat, and threw a glass at the wall. That was the night we both decided it wasn't safe having her there anymore. When she finally stormed out with her things, she spat, "You'll regret this. You're not the real family here." I honestly thought that was the end of it. I thought maybe she'd finally move on, but oh, how wrong I was. A week later, while Mark was at work, I came home and noticed the front door slightly open. My heart dropped. When I walked inside, the place looked like it had been ransacked. Drawers open, clothes everywhere, my jewelry box emptied. I froze. My first thought was that we'd been robbed, but then I saw Tina's old duffel bag on the floor. She had a key. She'd come back. I immediately called Mark, then the police. By the time they arrived, she was gone, but a few neighbors confirmed seeing her enter earlier that day. The cops told us since she was technically co-owner, it wasn't considered a break-in. That made me furious. How was it fair that she could just come and go as she pleased, destroy our things, and there was nothing I could do? That's when I made the decision that would later lead to the banging on my door. I went straight to a locksmith the next morning and had all the locks changed. I even installed security cameras. It felt good, like I was finally taking back control. Later that evening, I sat on the couch, sipping tea, finally feeling at peace, until I heard the pounding. The furious, relentless banging, then her voice shrill and trembling with anger. "Open this door right now. You can't do this. This is my house too." I didn't move. I just stood there, frozen, watching the live feed from the camera. She looked disheveled, furious, and unhinged. She screamed for nearly 10 minutes, then started threatening to call the police, saying she'd report me for locking her out of her own property. My hands were shaking, but I stayed quiet. Eventually, she stormed off. I thought that was the end of it, but a few minutes later, I heard a car pull up. Then voices. She'd brought backup. Her boyfriend and another friend started shouting outside, trying to force the door open. I immediately called the police again, terrified. They arrived quickly this time, and when the officers questioned her, she screamed that we had stolen her inheritance. Mark showed them the legal documents and explained that we were in the process of resolving everything through court. The police told her to leave or face trespassing charges. She glared at me with pure hatred before storming off again. But that look she gave me, I'll never forget it. So that was the situation I was in. My sister-in-law, who turned my life into chaos, was now threatening me for trying to protect my home. And I had to decide, do I back down to keep peace, or stand firm and risk destroying what's left of the family? Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause for a second and think about it. If you were in my shoes, if someone like Tina had invaded your home, disrespected you, and refused to leave, would you have changed the locks too? Would you have stood your ground, even if it meant a family fallout? Let me know in the comments what you think, because honestly, I still wonder if I made the right call. Anyway, after that night, things escalated fast. Tina started spreading lies about us online, telling everyone that I'd stolen her parents' house. Some of Mark's extended family started messaging us, asking what was going on. I told them the truth, but not everyone believed me. It hurt to see people I thought were family take her side without knowing the full story. Mark was torn up about it, but I kept reminding him, we had to stay strong and let the truth come out in court. A few weeks later, we finally had our hearing. The judge reviewed everything, the financial records, the fact that we'd been paying all the expenses, the proof of her damage to the property, and even the police report. When it was over, the judge ruled in our favor. Tina would receive a fair payout for her share, but she would no longer have any legal claim to the house. It was over. I could finally breathe, but Tina didn't take it well. She sent one final message to Mark. You chose her over me. Don't call me when you regret it. And that was the last we heard from her for a long time. Months passed. We repaired the damage she'd done, replaced the furniture, and finally made the house ours again. It took a while for the fear and tension to fade, but eventually it did. The house started to feel peaceful again, warm again. Like home. Then one evening, Mark came home looking pale. He showed me a letter. It was from Tina. She'd been in a car accident. She wasn't badly hurt, but it had shaken her up. In the letter, she wrote that she was sorry for everything. That she'd been angry, lost, and jealous because she felt like she'd lost not just her parents, but her family too. She admitted that seeing us build a life together in that house made her feel left out, and she took it out on me. It wasn't an apology that erased everything, but it was a start. Mark called her the next day, and they talked for the first time in months. It wasn't easy, but slowly, they started rebuilding some kind of relationship. I didn't speak to her directly for a long time, but eventually, I saw her at a family gathering. She approached me, looking nervous, and quietly said, "I'm sorry for everything." I didn't know what to say at first, but I nodded and said, "I forgive you." And for the first time, it felt real. It felt like closure. Looking back now, I don't regret changing those locks. It wasn't about revenge. It was about setting boundaries. Sometimes, you have to protect your peace, even if it means standing up to family. And if I could go back, I'd do it again. Because the truth is, peace is priceless, and no one, no matter how close, has the right to take it from you. So, what do you think? Was I wrong for changing the locks? Or was I right to finally take control of my home and my life? Let me know in the comments. And if you've ever dealt with a toxic family member or someone who just wouldn't respect your space, hit that like button so I know I'm not alone. Subscribe for more real life stories like this and share your thoughts below. I read every single one. I'll see you all in the next story.